All right, we're going to get started. Good afternoon, LRA members. I'm Wendy Warren, Vice President of Communications for the Louisiana Restaurant Association. Thank you all for joining us today to learn about our new partnership with M-Level called Thrive Louisiana. Thrive is a training module that follows the Office of the State Fire Marshal's guidelines for Phase 1, and it's been updated for Phase 2 now. Recommended in those guidelines are that all restaurant employees receive COVID-19 specific training. It's designed to hit the points and then quiz you and your employees on elements necessary to keep safety and sanitation front of mind during these heightened times of awareness. Thrive is offered complimentary for 10 weeks after you sign up, and what's important for you to know is that M-Level has developed the interface and we provided the content, and in this case it's the guidelines. Coming up, you're going to hear from Jordan Flydell, who you see on your screen, and he is the M-Level CEO and co-founder, and he'll demo Thrive Louisiana for you. What I'd like you to think about and realize is that this company can take any training materials and package it as you see they've done with Thrive. Beyond Thrive, there are capabilities and opportunities for your company to expand its online training and tracking. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Jordan Flydell. Hi, Jordan. CEO and co-founder of M-Level. M-Level is an award-winning micro-learning platform, and with 20 years of experience in the learning world, Jordan's unique viewpoint has allowed him to deliver training and educate companies on disruptive technologies. Jordan is now going to share his screen with us, and he's going to tell us about Thrive Louisiana and show us how it works. How you doing, Jordan?
Good, Wendy, and thank you everybody for making the time today to join us in an afternoon on a Wednesday afternoon. So I'm just going to share my screen, and hopefully Wendy will validate that everyone can see my screen. And before I jump into the demo and show you how the partnership between us and Louisiana Restaurant Association work together with the content from your state organization to put it into a digital format, I want to talk a little bit about what Wendy kind of touched on, which is, you know, it's the reason why we put this program together, and the reason why we put this partnership together is we realize that unfortunately the algorithm has changed for the delivery of training and education for your employees in the restaurant industry. I was sharing with Wendy probably about an hour ago during a quick chat. You know, I'm old enough to remember when my first job in the restaurant industry, I got moved from dishwasher to busboy. And that venture from dishwasher to busboy, I got trained by an individual by shadowing them around. And then about 6 months later, I earned the right to become a waiter. And I learned how to be a waiter by shadowing the waiter around. And we recognize that shadowing event is also going to be impacted by COVID-19 and the social distancing guidelines. So this is just the first module of content that we're partnering together on. We are going to work with Wendy. We're going to work with restaurateur expertise to get you a menu module quickly so that you can have menu training for your employees, and then work on how to teach your employees how to represent your brand well. And we want you to be able to do this without bringing the employee to your physical location. We think that's really important, that you have the ability to reach them digitally and ensure that at least they have a baseline of knowledge for your best operating procedures, and in particular around COVID. So I'm going to walk you through the front end today. I'm going to walk you through a brief tour of the analytics. I'm not going to show you Louisiana's analytics because Louisiana's program is brand new. So I'm going to show you some of the legacy analytics from some of our early days. But you'll have the power of both in your hands. And I'm sure Wendy, if you've been, Wendy shared already on the website, the link to sign up. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. And it's free for the first 10 weeks. And then after that 10 weeks, we're going to work really hard to keep it affordable. And so that goal is to keep it about $2 or less an employee for them to stay certified. So we realize that this is not going away. COVID-19 is probably not something we won't be talking about until there's a vaccine gone, until we make it through the winter. Unfortunately. So we are talking about COVID-19 being with us at least for probably about a year, and we need to make sure we're helping you be prepared and dealing with new employees and employees that come in and out to make sure that you're also protected from a compliance perspective. As we know, the regulators and the OSHA, people like OSHA are going to be looking to make sure that you've done the right training. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And of course, I'll let Wendy field any questions that come in, but glad to answer them along the way. So on your screen, you're seeing what would happen once you've sent the employee the link to participate in the program. This isn't the sign-up process. This is what happens post the sign-up process. So let's say you were the employee, you were just sent a link, you're given a quick overview of what to do. Now, the first tile they're going to click on is the guidelines. And you're going to see here on the guidelines, there's a couple easy things to do. One, they can learn how to quickly go through the activity, right? So they hit the how to play or how to interact button, and they're going to give that activity interaction description. They can, if you are in the process of gamifying that, they can hit their leaderboard. Again, that is something you can choose to do so they can compete, or they can just come on and hit the start button. It's really simple. So if they hit start and they don't hit the instructions, it's okay. All they're going to be asked to do is hit the next button, right? And we're going to be covering 3 topics. I'm probably not going to drain all 3 today. I may go through at least 2 just because we have the time, but I'm going to go through dining room and configuration and layout first. So I hit the next button. It's going to bring us to the first activity in the module.
The following guidelines for configuration and layout will help your restaurant do what it can to provide for the health and safety of employees and patrons as we navigate reopening after the COVID-19 closures. To do your restaurant's part in providing a safe environment for the health and well-being of employees and patrons, signage will be posted at the front door indicating that no one with a fever or symptoms of COVID-19 is permitted in the facility. If you observe a customer showing symptoms of coronavirus, notify management immediately. Weather permitting, please keep the front door open so no one needs to touch a handle. Certain precautions are being taken to ensure 6 feet of distance is maintained. It is up to you to make sure these guidelines are followed. In order to maintain social distancing as recommended by the CDC, lines or other markers will be placed throughout the restaurant to indicate the distance required by current guidelines. The CDC recommends people keep at least 6 feet of distance between themselves and others. To comply with required guidelines for distance in the dining area, tables may be removed or blocked off using signage and/or painter's tape. Other furniture, extra chairs, and bar stools may be removed or moved. Do not allow guests to move furniture, add chairs to a table, or bar stools at the bar. Party sizes should be limited to no more than 10 guests. The law prohibits people who don't live together from sitting at the same table. Hosts should advise customers of this rule and ask guests if they live in the same household before seating them together. If your restaurant allows bar seating, the proper distance between bar guests will be marked on the bar top, on fixed bar stools, or otherwise using painter's tape or some other marking. Assist patrons in complying with these markings and social distancing. Notify management of any patrons who refuse to comply. If there is lounge furniture in your establishment, your restaurant may space it 6 feet or more apart for social distance as well. Don't allow patrons to move the furniture and violate the social distance requirements. Your restaurant will designate or mark appropriate paths for patrons for ingress and egress, as well as to and from restrooms to allow for maximum distance. Assist patrons by explaining the markings so they can comply with distance requirements. Interior waiting areas will remain closed. Be sure to advise customers to wait outside of the facility while following social distancing guidelines or to wait in cars. Customers are required to be seated at tables and not congregating in open areas of the establishment. Hand sanitizer stations may be placed around the restaurant by management. Become familiar with those locations and let patrons know where they are. Patrons will appreciate that you are showing concern for their health and safety.
So that's the first individual module. And then what we've done is, based on the brain science and research, we've been doing this for quite a while, it's great to break up the learning of content with a few questions. It's really designed to make sure that the person's paid attention during that first interaction and get their response. The second thing that we're doing here is we're beginning to capture data. And we'll talk about how we use this data and how it can be an effective tool for you in protecting both your employees and your company. So you can see here, I've got a question: how should I keep guests from touching the door handle? And I've got a series of options. And now if I choose the correct one, you'll see that I get a positive feedback response that's coming in from the system itself. It's saying, hey, good job, that's right. Now in the next one, I'm going to get it wrong on purpose. Okay, so I'm letting you know up front that it's not that I don't know the content, I'm choosing to go down that path. Okay, so I got another question. I know the answer is really 10. So I'm going to click it wrong, and now it's going to give me the correct size, right? So what we're doing here is we're not giving the final assessment. We're actually taking the learner through the journey, but we're providing them the key points, the highlight points we think of that particular module. We're asking them some targeted questions, and then we're getting them prepared for the next module. We're also giving their brain a break. And just so you know, that's where the brain science come in. It helps the brain refresh before it gets ready to absorb content. It gives it a small moment. One of the things that's really changed in the world of learning is that our attention spans have really shrunk due to the impact of the internet and cellular phones, or I guess I'm so old now calling them cellular, but I guess I call them phones in the world we live in today, right? It's really changed the algorithm. Forget social media, you throw that in the mix, and now we're kind of like expecting text and constant interaction. So our brains are highly tuned to quick interactions, and we've kind of designed a system to make that all work. So the next module to come up, it's employee safety and sanitation, and then we'll take a break and go into the assessment.
The following video outlines the guidelines for employee safety and sanitation. Do not come to work if you are experiencing symptoms of coronavirus. Upon arriving to work, employees may be required to submit to a thermal check. Any employees displaying signs of fever or illness will be instructed to leave. All employees must wash their hands immediately upon arrival. For your protection and the protection of others, all employees will be required to wear masks and could be required to wear gloves. You must follow your restaurant's training regarding the use of masks and gloves, how to wear them, and how to dispose of them. It is important that when wearing the mask, the mouth and nose remain covered in order to prevent the spread of illness via respiratory droplets. Masks must be replaced or cleaned daily. Avoid touching your face at all times. Touching one's face is a common way to contract the virus. Gloves are recommended when handling money, but not recommended for other tasks that do not normally require gloves. If gloves are worn, hands should be washed before putting gloves on and after removing gloves. Gloves should be changed often, changed between tasks, changed when they are obviously soiled, and changed after each interaction with a new individual. Proper hand washing is more important than ever. Make sure to wash your hands for the CDC recommended 20 seconds every 60 minutes, as well as after using the restroom, sneezing, touching your face, using a broom or mop, smoking, and eating or drinking. Be sure to wash your hands or use hand sanitizer after every customer interaction. Social distancing measures will be implemented as much as possible. You should make every effort to distance from customers and other employees as well as with outside vendors. Notify vendors and delivery drivers of social distancing requirements. Avoid physical contact as much as possible, including physical contact with other employees. Unnecessary touching such as handshaking, hugs, and high fives are not allowed. Refrain from using each other's phones and work tools. To comply with social distancing, staff may be staggered, pre-shift meetings will be done with smaller groups and spaced out, and avoid gatherings in the building while entering, exiting, or moving about.
So again, we'll have these questions, and I'm not going to go through them here, but again, you'll see we're breaking it up. It's about a 2.5-minute video on each individual module. And again, what we're trying to do here is not force an employee to spend an hour or 2 hours in front of a screen. We're trying to make it short but powerful in the interaction, get them to understand the content, and secondarily, make sure that you as an organization have the necessary data to make sure you're ready for any potential OSHA complaints or anything that may arrive from reopening your restaurant, okay? The final thing we're doing is a test, right? We want to make sure that they've actually captured the information and they're ready to begin working for you. And again, this is going to be a decision you make as a business, how you want to implement the rules around that, right? We've had certain people say, hey, they got to get 100% or they're not coming to work for me. I'm just not taking the chance that they didn't get 100%. Some companies are saying, look, I just want them to take the test, be aware of it, and I still am okay with them coming to work for it. This is really your business decision. I'd encourage you to speak to legal counsel or somebody like that to just get advice on best procedures, maybe your insurance agent or someone like that, or a benefits company. So again, it's just questions. We're going to test the knowledge. It's not super interesting, but again, I just want to show you it's all digital, right? So the first thing I do when I come to work is obviously I don't hug my coworkers. I don't have a thermal check. I clock in. Do I wash my hands right? So I think I got to first wash my hands when I come to work. I got that correct. That came out of the module. Now I know what to do in there, right? If a delivery driver comes in, do I need to be socially distanced when they come in the kitchen? The answer to that is true, right? I need to remain socially distant, right? These are just questions one after another, right? We're gonna have some images, say which one of these images look correct for the correct configuration. Let's get that wrong. Now you can see what happens is it lights up the correct image and says, this is what you're supposed to be doing, okay? And there are a ton of questions here, and you'll see all different types of question formats. The key is I'm reaching this individual before they've ever arrived in my establishment. So I'm not embedding myself into risk. I can do this with an employee via their mobile phone, right? So they don't have to have a computer, right? All they have to have is a mobile phone. Almost everybody today has a phone. Almost everybody has some semblance of data on it. They can go into, if they don't want to use their own data, obviously they can go into and use a Wi-Fi connection in the public Wi-Fi in that area. But most folks at these points, and went through that. So they take the test, they finish the test, they complete it, and they get their verification. Now, there's one other thing we put in this module, and that's a resource pool that we give them that if they want to do additional learning, if they want to go outside, they can go to the LRA COVID-19 resource website. They click on that, and it'll take them off to that particular page and take them out to that individual site, right to the restaurant resource pool. So again, we tried to make it easy, very simple, very interactive. So I'm going to stop here sharing the front end. If there's any questions about that, we can handle them out. I will point out that this is the base package. What I mean by that is this is what we've built with the branding and standard imagery for the Louisiana Restaurant Association to keep the economics down for everybody involved. If you're very prideful of your restaurant, which I understand, I'm prideful of our business to an RM level, and you want to customize something like this, you can. Unfortunately, we can't do that for you for free, but we can do it for you at a very reasonable price, about $99 an hour for customization. So if you say, hey, I really want everything to be my imagery from the restaurant, I want my brand, that's what I want to have, that's possible for you. Again, it's not part of the 10-week free program, so just want to make sure you understand that it's an option for you. So now I'm going to go ahead and share another screen with you, and hopefully you'll be able to see that in a second here. Let me pull this up, and it should be relatively blank. I'm going to hit a quick refresh here. And this is my individual demo reporting interface, but soon enough, when you sign up for the program, it'll become your interface. Now, yours will be much simpler. You won't have all these options laid out over here on the left-hand side where my mouse is. You'll just have your program. And the thing you'll want to do is a couple of things you'll want to have readily and handily for you. One is you get a completion report with this. So unlike other trainings that you may have done, you're going to actually get data. So kind of think about the certificates you've seen when people walk into your restaurants and have earned the certificate to qualify me. You're going to have your own personal record of every employee going through that. So if I go through and there'll be one program for you and I want to look at who completed the restaurant reopening program that I will have a list of names, not fake names like you see here, right? These will be the actual names of your employees. It'll talk about what score they got, when they did it, and how much if they have left to complete it or not complete it. It's important to know that this is the kind of information, this is the first ask you're going to get from OSHA. So if you get an OSHA complaint from an employee or workers' comp, this is the first piece of data you're going to want to provide and say, I did training. Here's the demonstration of the training the individual went through. We have a client who actually delivered that plus the supervisor's training data so that OSHA had a record filed as well, the workman comp said, and said, hey, we did our part, right? This person didn't get sick because of something we did. This person may have gotten sick elsewhere, and actually the complaint got closed. The second thing you're going to be able to do, and this is going to really apply not only in the aspect of restaurant reopening, but think about now all the things that happened in that personal session of one-on-one coaching that you got when you shadowed someone in the restaurant, right? What happens is that often, and I remember that, again, I'm pretty old, so I'm dating myself, probably 30 plus years ago when I was waiting tables, okay? I remember when I got in the training, someone said, hey, Jordan, you're gonna wait on the next table. And all that happened during that process is I made mistakes, right? I'm sure I messed everything up. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was a Fridays and it was a TGI Fridays, and I was learning, all the menu names and items and whatnot. But I was getting feedback every time we came back to the rooms where we made the drinks, and can't remember the exact terms for those little huddle rooms were called, right? It's been a long time. And I'd always get feedback. Here's what you did well. Here's what you didn't do well. Here's what you didn't understand. Here's what you made a mistake on, right? All that interaction that goes on with your expert servers and expert personnel and the line cooks and staff, you have to figure out a way to kind of get understanding of what your employee doesn't know. So here you can see that I have a quick access into which topics my employees struggle through as a whole, not individuals. We'll get to individuals in a second, as a whole and going through the topic. What I can see is that my team really didn't understand environmental safety. The topic was a struggle for them. They only got that right 68% of the time. And there were two concepts I was teaching within that environmental safety piece. The first one was front of the house cleaning, everything that happened in the front of the house. And the second was back of the house. Based on the data, I can see that back of the house for me is a much bigger problem than front of the house cleaning at this moment. Now, again, it's 13 percentage points. This is demo data. You have to take everything with a grain of salt. So you have to realize that when you look at your data, it will look differently. But what's most important is not just understanding the concepts, but actually drilling into the topic itself and opening it up. And this is where that coaching comes into play, right? Because if you think about it, you're going to be training on things beyond COVID, right? So you're talking about your menu. If you do a lunch menu and a dinner menu and you have a cocktail menu, an appetizer menu, of all these different menus, there are going to be different elements of that they need to understand to be a good server, as well as potentially prepare your food. Okay. Now, I'm opening up the two concepts and I see that one particular question is literally driving the majority of my problems, right? So people do not understand what areas in the back of the house need to be cleaned every 60 minutes during times of high use, right? So this is alarming to me. Why? Because any place that isn't cleaned correctly is a potential feeding ground for the virus. Okay, that's just the reality of what the CDC data says. So I want to go into that question and I want to be able to quickly see which answers people are getting wrong so I can understand what they're getting wrong. I also want to be able to see who got it wrong, right? So it's not just enough to be able to say, I understand there's a problem with the question. I don't need my whole group to get back together because, again, remember, I'm challenged by social distancing guidelines. So if it's just 4 people for me to have a quick huddle up, I can do that in an area in my restaurant relatively easily, right? I can't do that with my entire staff without having a bigger challenge. So I can get very granularly to the problem. I can get to that and see what that individual was struggling to understand. I can go help them understand how to fill that gap. And that helps me as a business protect my business. And again, if you're thinking about when you're onboarding or re-onboarding people to your company, this helps you see insights into what they're struggling with. The other report I'm just going to touch on for a second that you'll have access to, and don't worry, there's plenty of training here. We have a whole customer support team will help you understand how to use the product once you get into it. But you also have that ability, and I'm just going to show you to look at individuals and how they're performing. And I got to stop clicking around so fast. You can see here, this is another sample set of the individuals that went through just related to testing out a certain module, right? I now have a list of people. Inside that list of people, I can open them up and I get a scorecard on what they do or don't understand, okay? This will show me that same breakout I got in knowledge, but it'll break it down on an individual basis. So if I'm onboarding a bunch of folks, I want to truly see what, in this case, sample user 1 is struggling with. I can see, not shocking, everyone struggling with employee safety. In this case, is their struggle. So now I can drill in to say, show me what the problem is with employee safety. I can actually go look at the results, and you can see here it's spinning. Now I can go look at that assessment and find out where they got their questions wrong. And I can see all their questions right then and there and see their responses, right? The key is we've kind of built this platform with a mind's eye to say, how do we empower you to do things without having to rely on in-person or watch it happen in experience? You're trying to catch things before they happen. And this is the new challenge you guys have to deal with. So I wanted to cover these things for you. I hopefully spoke slow enough. Sometimes I get wound up and I move too fast. Wendy, I'll turn the floor over back to you. Stop sharing my screen and be glad to answer any questions or take it, do an additional detail deep dive if you'd like.
Does anybody have any questions for Jordan? We are recording this session, so you will be able to access it. We're going to share it in the snapshot tomorrow. It will live on our YouTube page, and you will be able to revisit it if you have questions. You can also email communications@lra.org if you have any questions about this or anything else LRA related. And I don't see any questions right now. We're going to continue to promote Thrive Louisiana on all of our social channels, as well as our website and in the snapshot that comes out on Tuesdays and either Thursday or Friday. So I still don't see any questions. So with that, again, if you need to get in contact with us or you have any questions about Thrive Louisiana, you can email communications@lra.org and we'll get the answers for you. I'm going to count down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Wendy.
Jordan. We'll
Thank
be
you.
in touch.
Bye-bye.